Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome into the Back to 12 podcast. I am RC Maxfield. In today's, live video, we've got a lot to discuss because, we know who Texas Tech men's basketball is going to play in the 20-game gauntlet that will be the Big 12 scheduled this year with a bunch of new teams in the mix. I guess technically just 4, but it's going to be very interesting. And we're going to take a look at the matrix schedule for the Red Raiders in terms of who they play, where they play, but not necessarily when they play them. But we'll discuss that. We'll also look at the NBA draft. It's going on right now as 2 former Red Raiders went in the first round of the the NBA draft, excuse me. Could there be one next year on the Texas Tech roster that goes in the first round? We will look at a couple of mock drafts that are way too early, obviously, that absolutely love a Red Raider on the current roster. And then we'll do a live Q&A here on the live feed as well. But before we do that, got to give a huge shout out to today's video sponsor, and that is Homefield Apparel. I'm telling you guys right now, that Texas Tech two-tone dad hat is going to be in the rotation. It's going to be in the rotation, people. So you can save 15% off your entire purchase over at homefieldapparel.com when you use the promo code BACK212. Again, that promo code is BACK212, and it won't just save you 15% on one item. No, it will be on your entire purchase. So go get some of their extensive collection of vintage tees for the Red Raiders over on homefieldapparel.com, and be sure to use that promo code BACK212 to save 15%. All right, let me know where y'all are watching from. Let's get the chat going a little bit. Let me know where you're watching from. Like the video if you haven't already. We got a lot to discuss as we're about to bring up, the schedule, because I think that there's a lot here to look at for Texas Tech in the sense of who are they playing at home? Who are they playing on the road? And who do they have the quote-unquote, I guess, traditional Big 12 route in terms of a home and away game? It's going to be very interesting, but let me know where y'all are watching from in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to like the video hey, let me know that you want more of these lives. I'm trying to go live at least once a week here on the channel to discuss everything possible, but it's not just basketball, it's football too, and we will be having a ton of football content as well as a certain guy that has the initials LL. Might remember him, Lyle Leon Jr. Yeah, we'll have him back here on the pod in the not too distant future. All right, I kind of want to talk about this, not even kind of. I'm super intrigued by it, to be honest, in terms of this 2024-2025 matrix schedule for the Red Raiders, okay? And let's take a look at it. This from Texas Tech men's basketball over on Twitter, the 2024 conference matchups, i.e. the matrix schedule. You can see right there that you got the home and away games. Now, at the bottom of your screen on the lower bar there, you can see where Texas Tech, who they play home and away, just away games. And, that'll help you out up there. But home and away games. Arizona, Arizona State, Houston, Oklahoma State, and TCU. I am very happy to see that Texas Tech will be playing Oklahoma State and TCU in terms of that felt like a rivalry potentially, right? You also have Arizona and, both Arizona schools in the mix right there, which is super interesting to me because, Arizona's going to be legit. They have a chance to be a second weekend team in the NCAA tournament, and you're going to have to go to Tucson, and they're going to have to come to the 806. Now, Arizona State, Tempe's a little bit different. Hurley's got a couple of good players out there, but how do they mesh? That'll be interesting, and we all know how good Houston is, regardless of if they lost the Defensive Player of the Year in Jamal Shead, who actually got drafted to the Toronto Raptors at the 45th overall pick. Now, what stands out to me in this, okay? It's nice that you don't have to play in Ames or Waco, first and foremost. I think that that's absolutely huge for Texas Tech. You can see on the graphic there, if you look at it, the home teams that are on the top are the ones you just play at home, And then same for the away at the bottom where it's the top. Those are the ones you only play on the road. Okay. So you play Colorado at home, right? They lose a lot of guys, including multiple first-round picks. Iowa State is going to be absolutely legit a Final Four contender. Will TJ Squad be up there in Ames? We know what Scott Drew did in the portal, going out and getting Roach and Omier. Then you got UCF, who is a very, very solid team, in my opinion, with Coach Dawkins. And then you're not sure exactly what you're getting with the Mountaineers in terms of their new coach with DeVries out there. Obviously, his son went out there, and his son's an absolute stud, but you don't know what you're getting there. In terms of home slate, I don't think you could have asked for anything much better, right? You get to play Arizona at home. You get to play Houston at home. You get to play Oklahoma State, TCU. I mean, just looking at that, you would think that the Red Raiders are probably, okay, 10 games at home. You should at least win 7, right? Okay, so that'll get you in a good spot. You play BYU, Utah, Cincy, Kansas, and Kansas State. It's not very nice that you have to go to the Phog. You've got to go to Arizona on the road as well as Houston. Oh, and by the way, it's going to be tough playing at BYU and Cincinnati as well. Okay, so here's the thing. That's a super tough schedule. I don't think anybody's going to debate that. But I will say this when it comes down to it, like every fan base has a reason to complain. I mean, it's just the truth. This is going to be the hardest the Big 12 has ever been. And I don't know if it's up for debate. I mean, you could make an argument, in my opinion. I've talked about this previously on the channel. I think you could be talking about 9 teams that I could see a scenario where, yeah, they make the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. Like, I think they're that good. Will that happen? Odds are probably not, but I think that there's 9 second weekend caliber teams in the Big 12. You're talking about half the conference there. It would not shock me if the Big 12 gets in that 10-11 range when it comes to teams in the tournament. This conference is all kinds of legit. You think about the top of it, it's obviously got to start with Kansas. They're going to be the preseason number 1. You've got Houston. You've got Baylor, Arizona, right? There's so many good teams, and I haven't even mentioned Texas Tech and Cincinnati, who all the teams I just mentioned are probably 5 seeds or higher. At least that's how they're going to be perceived going into the season. So you look at it again as we put the matrix up there again in terms of who Texas Tech will be playing, right? It's difficult. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? That's just the truth of the matter. But every team in the Big 12 is going to have a difficult schedule. It's just how it's going to be. And you think about what Texas Tech did in the portal and went out and really pinpointed some needs, including a primary ball handler. They obviously addressed the front court with JT Toppin and Federico. And I didn't even mention Kevin Overton. You did a good job there. Not to mention you went out and you added a 4-star point guard in Christian Anderson in the class of 2024 late in the cycle. So you're looking good, bringing back guys like D5, Chance McMillan, Kerwin Walton, Devin Cambridge, right? It's going to be difficult to play in the Big 12 regardless. But in terms of everything that has gone the Texas Tech Red Raiders way in the portal, I don't really mind the schedule because I think I knew it was going to be hard, right? Like I think everybody knew it was going to be hard. But I will say this, I'm very excited for basketball season, just about 100 days away, or 130 days away, excuse me, from tip-off in that range. And if you're excited about Texas Tech men's basketball, type TTU in the chat because, listen, I think we're talking about one of the more talented teams in Texas Tech program history. Yes, I get it. That's a hard, difficult schedule. Every team has a hard, difficult schedule in the Big 12. It's just the reality of it, right? But let me know if you're excited about this 2024-2025 season for Texas Tech men's basketball. You're number 2 of Grant McCaslin out on the South Plains just by typing TTU in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to like the video. Okay, let's talk about the NBA draft because we're going to tie this into Texas Tech in the roster that the Red Raiders currently have. Because I think that there's 2 guys on the roster going into 2024, 2025 that could be drafted, right? But let's start with guys that were previously Red Raider, right? and where they got drafted. We're going to start in the first round, and it's going to be with Jalen Tyson getting drafted 20th overall to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Good for JT, man. Then you've got Terrence Shannon Jr., TJ. He goes number 27 overall to the Minnesota Timberwolves, okay? That's pretty good stuff right there. There's a lot of what ifs. But now we transition to the 2024-2025 roster for Texas Tech. Because to me, you have two guys that I could see get drafted, okay? Now, one far more than the other, and that's not disrespect to the other. It's just, well, look at what they have in terms of mock drafts and the people that are making these decisions perceived him as, and it's JT Toppin. JT Toppin, in my opinion, if he increases the frequency of the threes that he takes in terms of, how many he takes, and he still shoots around 35%, which he did as a true freshman out at New Mexico, I could see Toppin being a top 20 pick in the 2025 NBA draft. And oh, by the way, everybody's talking about how bad the 2024 draft is. The 2025 draft is the polar opposite, a full swing to the other side, talking about a generational draft. That's how people are perceiving it. And JT Toppin is squarely in the mix to be a first-round pick. Now, when you look at everything in terms of these major media sites and where do they have way too early projections for the new Texas Tech, either starting 4 or 5, depending on the lineup, in JT Toppin, you're going to like what you hear, Red Raider Nation, because CBS Sports has JT Toppin projected as the 18th pick in the 2025 NBA draft. We're not done there yet, though. NBA Draft Room, one of the most highly accredited sites when it comes to NBA mock drafts and being right more often than not, has the newest Red Raider projected as the 24th overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Now, when it comes to Darion Williams, he is the other in this situation. And D5 is super interesting to me from the sheer standpoint of this. Does he have the prototypical NBA body? I think if you said yes, you're probably lying to yourself. But does he have the skills and the skill set to thrive in the NBA and be a guy that I think could play in the league for a little bit? Absolutely. It's just, what is he? I think that that's the biggest thing, right? Because he's kind of a tweener. Or is he more of a guard? Is he more of a forward because of how much he weighs? Like, where do you go with him? That being said, I have seen multiple 2-round mock drafts having D5 being drafted either like 59th, 58th, or just not drafted at all, but being a primary guy in terms of the next up in terms of the top 60. So there's that. But from a JT Toppin perspective, I think you're talking about the neighborhood that you saw Jalen Tyson get drafted this year in the 2024 draft as the 20th overall pick by the Cleveland Cavaliers. It would not shock me whatsoever if JT Toppin is one and done at Texas Tech. In fact, that's kind of how I'm going into this season in terms of what he's going to be. You think about what he did at New Mexico, winning Mountain West Freshman of the Year, led that conference in rebounding, block shots as a freshman, and field goal percentage. Remember, a top 20 field goal percentage all time by a true freshman. All time in NCAA tournament history. Now he's coming into Lubbock and he has a chance to be either the starting 4 or 5, depending on how Grant McCasland wants to finagle the lineup in terms of going smaller with Fetty coming off the bench, or is Federico the starting 5 and JT can actually space the floor a little bit more and show NBA scouts, hey, I have worked on developing my game. I have worked on my outside shooting and being more consistent with it and taking more of them per game. I think that that's probably the more likely scenario, JT Toppin starting at the 4. That being said, it can't go understated the fact that Texas Tech landed a guy in the portal late in the process, I might add, in terms of the NBA draft process being over with, that's being projected. And again, I get it. It's way too early for the 2025 NBA draft. Right now, the NBA draft is currently going on at the time of this live stream. But he's being projected as a top 25 pick. That's a guy that has the chance to be really an all Big 12 first team, second team type guy. There is real NBA impact potential there for Texas Tech. And now you start thinking about that in terms of how does he elevate others, okay? How does he make life easier for D5? I think that that's a very fair question, and I think he makes his life a lot easier if we're being honest about it. But from the NBA draft process perspective, you want to see JT Toppin shoot more threes, and that is going to help guys like D5. That's going to help guys like Elijah Hawkins because there's going to be more pressure on JT Toppin from the perspective of the defense. And NBA scouts, when he was at the combine, he stood out. Like, did he struggle sometimes? Yes, but his motor, his rebounding ability for his size, and he shot better than a lot of people expected, I think. Now, he's got to vastly improve in that because he is kind of a tweener as well. I've compared him to Nick Claxton, a smaller version, a guy that just got a 4-year, $100 million contract from the Brooklyn Nets. I think he's probably more of a wing version of that. But I'm telling you right now, if JT Toppin can average, let's say, 2.5 threes per game, and he makes, I don't know, 35% of them, he's going to get drafted in the top 20 next year in a loaded draft class, okay? Just absolutely loaded draft class. He's one of those guys that NBA draft, scouts and guys that make mock drafts are going to fall in love with if he can do that. And now he's the starting 4 or 5 for the Red Raiders, and a guy that when I look at his film, I'm thinking to myself, okay, if he can do this, because the rebounding is not going to go away. He's still an elite rebounder. He's going to be really good in the pick and roll. But I think the thing that I'm most interested to see, and I think a skill set that a lot of Texas Tech fans don't know where he's going to be at once the season comes around. Yeah, he's good in the pick and roll, but what about the pick and pop? I think that that's where that could be the ultimate game changer offensively for the Red Raiders, because if you make the defense come out and respect JT Toppin shooting the three, think about the lanes that opens up for guys like Chance McMillan, D5, Kerwin Walton, Devin Cambridge. I mean, the list goes on in terms of cutters that Texas Tech has that can finish through contact. So that's really what I'm looking at. And the NBA scouts are taking notice as well. They talked about his rebounding in these mock drafts. They talked about how efficient he was as a shooter close to the rim. But the big overarching theme for them is how good does his shot look as a sophomore in an elevated conference in the Big 12. Don't listen to those New Mexico people saying this is a lateral move for JT Toppin. That's one of the most ludicrous things I've ever heard. If you really think the Mountain West Conference is the same as the Big 12, I don't know what conference you're watching or what you're doing in your life outside of watching basketball, but you're wrong. You're wrong. It's that simple. So that's where we're at with JT Toppin. I think it's super interesting. And again, let me know in the comments, do you think that JT Toppin will be a first-round pick in the NBA draft next year? Just simple Y for yes, in for no. Let me know down in the comments below. All right, let's get to the comments real quick here because we've got some riling up here. Let's see. We've got Jerry. He's watching from Lubbock. We've got Kaylee watching from Lubbock. We've got Kaylee saying, my son's birthday is November 4th. Well, happy way too early birthday, but basketball season will definitely be around by then, I think. I think it'll probably be maybe a week before or a week after is when tip-off is. So that'll be a lot of fun. This from Kaylee as well. If Toppin makes more in NIL than he would in the NBA, do you think he'd stay another year? Interesting question. No. If he's a first-round pick, he's gone. You make more money as a first-round pick. Now, I'm glad you brought this up from the standpoint of D5. That's where things get interesting because I think Darion Williams is a guy that is a perfect example of does he stay or does he go? And what I mean by that is he could make good money in the NBA, but I think D5 is a guy, unless he takes his game to another level, which is possible, but he's a tweener. Remember that. I think right now he's a guy that scouts view as a really good college guy, but what is he as a pro? And that's not to say he isn't a pro, but what is he? You want to see another year or two of it. He's a guy, in my opinion, that would make and benefit more from the NIL situation of staying at Texas Tech long term and being that guy in college, making quite a bit of money at, Texas Tech, and then playing in the best conference in America. And then once his 4 years of eligibility are done, take his chances in the NBA draft and have this resume of being an all Big 12 third teamer already. Should have been a second teamer, but here we are. And then he has a chance to really, make another all Big 12 team, actually multiple. He's just a junior. So I think that when it comes down to it, JT is a guy where if he's projected to go in the first round, no, he's gone. I don't know how you would tell a kid like, hey, you're being projected and by all accounts, you're going to be a top 20 pick, like not to go fulfill his dream in that perspective, right? Now, if you're in the second round, and we saw it a lot this year, in terms of guys like Caleb Love, for example, at Arizona, a guy that is a really, really good college basketball player, right? But the NBA was like, yeah, you'll probably be a late second round pick. It's more beneficial for him to come back to college and get another bag, right? RJ Davis, same way at North Carolina, really, really good basketball player in college. What is he as a pro? They said he was probably going to go undrafted or be a really late second round pick. So there you go, in that perspective. So I think for me, JT Toppin, if he has the year that I think he's capable of, and we'll do bold predictions and all that good stuff once the season gets closer. But I think JT Toppin is a guy that's going to be on the preseason all Big 12 second team. And if he's not, we probably need to have a conversation with the people that are voting. All right, let's see. This from Jerry Paston's question. If Mark Adams isn't the coach, do you think Shannon and Tyson would have stayed at Texas Tech and played another year? No, I do not. No, I don't. Remember, Kevin McCullough and TSJ stayed another year because Mark Adams was the coach. Then they transferred out, obviously, the second year, and that's when, pardon my language, shit hit the fan for Texas Tech, on the court and off. But no, Jalen Tyson, I mean, he wanted to stay at Texas Tech, but it's a business, man. And, you get a new coach in here and Grant McCasland, and sometimes they just want their guys in here and develop a roster and pick and choose who they want. And Jalen Tyson just wasn't in the cards for that. In that regard. From Kaylee again, how much is an average rookie first-round pick contract? Well, it depends where you get drafted. So if you get picked in that 20 range, it's about $20 million. Yeah, so you're passing up $20 million guaranteed, because NBA first-round draft picks, that contract's guaranteed. That's a guaranteed contract. So you got to think about it from that perspective, where JT could, let's just say, hypothetically, right? Because the rumor is right now he's getting over $1 million at Texas Tech. No one knows the exact number, and if they tell you they know the exact number, they're lying to you. But let's just say hypothetically, to make the math easy, JT is like, hey, I potentially want to come back for another year. How much would y'all give me? Let's say Texas Tech was willing to pay him $2 million. Well, that's nothing compared to if he's a first-round pick. Now, there's a little bit of risk there, right, in terms of what about if they don't go in the first round? The second-round draft picks aren't guaranteed money. So if he's a guaranteed first-round pick, which I think he's talented enough to be, like, yeah, he's dipping after 1 year. There's no doubt about that. All right, if you haven't already, be sure to like the video. It really, really would mean a lot. Appreciate it. Let me know where y'all are watching from. As well, because, hey, I want to see where everybody's watching from. I know that there's a lot of people in here from all over. I know Lubbock is watching heavily, but I know there's also a lot of other people watching. I think last weekend or last week, whenever we had the last live, we had somebody from China, Norway, and then somewhere in Canada. I'm not even going to act like I know how to pronounce something in Canada outside of like Edmonton or something. I don't know. I'm not that, kind of thing. There we go. Apparently South Korea. I don't know if that's real or not, but I'm going to take him at his word. So there we go. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We got Frisco, Texas as well. If we've got any more questions, by all means, drop them in the chat. I'll be going live here for another probably about 5-10 minutes. If we've got questions here in the chat, we'll keep it alive and everything. But again, the big thing, while we get the chat going, I want to put this back up because, again, this was really the biggest news in Texas Tech men's basketball today, was the 2024-2025 conference matchups. And you got your home and away. You play the bottom in each of the home and the away. at both spots. And then the top on both is just where you play at that respective one in terms of if they're on top at the away, you only play them away. If they're at the top of the home section, you only play them at home. So big time that Texas Tech doesn't have to go to Ames. They don't have to go to Waco. They don't have to go to Orlando after what happened there last year. But you do got to go to Provo. You got to go to Salt Lake City. Cincinnati, Kansas, and Kansas State's going to be tough, people. I don't know if y'all know, but Cincinnati's a damn good team. And Kansas is going to be the preseason number one. I think Kansas State is going to be an NCAA tournament team, probably closer to the bubble. But, I mean, man, it's a tough schedule just from the standpoint, again, you're playing in the Big 12. There's no nights off here. And you look at who you get to play at home from the standpoint of home and away, I should say. You get Arizona, Arizona State, Houston, Oklahoma State, TCU. It's tough all the way around, right? I mean, the road schedule is absolutely crazy because you think about it, it would not shock me at all if Kansas, Houston, and Arizona are all in the top 12 of the preseason poll. Texas Tech will probably be ranked as well in the preseason poll, but those three teams could be in the top 12. I think Cincinnati could be ranked as well. And, I mean, really the easiest game you have on your schedule, at least perceived easiest game, is Utah. They'll probably be picked towards the bottom of the Big 12. You got Oklahoma State, who has a new head coach and done a solid job in the portal. Does Jamie Dixon actually do something at TCU in terms of being competitive and having a winning record in the Big 12? TBD, but they did a good job in the portal. There's just a lot. There's a lot there in terms of just how difficult this schedule is for Texas Tech. But again, like I said earlier in the live, every Big 12 schedule is going to be hard. I mean, it is just nuts. It's nuts how difficult the Big 12 schedule is for everybody, because you think about it, you have probably 11 teams that could make the NCAA tournament. It's just absolutely insane. I'm trying to see if Kevin McCullough got drafted. Did anybody see that? If he got drafted. Also, Bronny James to the Lakers, the most obvious thing that has happened. But it is what it is on that front. All right. Let's get to some questions here. This from John. We've got, is Coach going to use his final 2 scholarships? I think right now, probably not. There's been some rumors that they, were trying to get a European guy or whatnot, and maybe there were some visa issues or whatever it may be. That's the rumor. I've only heard that from one person and haven't been able to confirm it. But yeah, I don't think they're going to use them right now, if we're being honest. I'm trying to see where Kevin McCullough got drafted here. Oh, he got drafted to the Suns right after Bronny. Okay, so 3 former Red Raiders drafted. There you go. Appreciate you, Chaz. Let me know there. Let's see. Road schedule is no gimme. Let me tell you that from Garrett. Yeah, I mean, the home schedule isn't a gimme either. I'd be happy if Texas Tech won 7 games at home. I mean, that means they lose 3 in the Big 12, but I mean, it's tough. I mean, I've said it in a prior video, and I'll probably keep saying it, so I'll sound like a broken record in this regard. But I think this is going to be the hardest big year in the Big 12 ever. Because you think about it, you bring in Arizona. They're a perennial blue blood in a sense. Colorado went to the tournament. They lost a lot of guys, but added some as well. That's how I feel about Arizona State and Coach Hurley there. He went out and added a lot of guys. Utah is still, I guess. But you add those 4 teams. You think about it, UCF got better. West Virginia got better. Cincinnati got better. Iowa State got better. Texas Tech got better. Kansas got better. Kansas State got better. Baylor probably got better too. I mean, I could make an argument that every team in the conference outside of maybe 3 got better. It is an absolute gauntlet, night in and night out, in the Big 12. All right, this from Jerry. What do you expect Jeff Linder to bring to the table? Yeah, he's going to be the offensive guy. I think, in a lot of ways. He's a really good pick and roll guy. If you go watch his offense, it's more European style, a lot of spacing, understanding of ball movement and off ball movement as well. Think European, like I said, and FIFA type stuff. It's there's going to be a lot of ball movement. That's one reason that it's very interesting that Elijah Hawkins is there. But I think you're going to see quite a bit of pick and roll like you did last year. But I think it's going to be better because you have more guys that you can use on both sides of the pick and roll, not just the pick or the roll, whatever it may be, or the primary ball handle, I guess I should say. So that's really what I'm looking forward to for Texas Tech the most, because I think they're going to be much better in the pick and roll because you have guys that can do it from multiple positions. And that's something that I think Texas Tech couldn't do last year. You think about it last year with Warren Washington, he was your best screener. And when he wasn't in the game, your pick and roll game really, really struggled. And there was quite a bit of ISO ball, whether that was with Joe Toussaint, Pop Isaacs, whoever it may be. This year now, you got multiple good screeners. You got Fetty, you got JT, you got Devin Cambridge, D5's in there. So you've got multiple good screeners, but also some of those guys can also be the primary ball handler in a pick and roll setting. So you'll see a lot more spacing. I think that Texas Tech will be better shooting as well this season, because Lord knows that they had a lot of, roller coaster type games where they couldn't miss. And then the next game, it looked like they're not even present in the gym. So that's kind of what I expect from Jeff Linder. And don't be surprised too, from a recruiting standpoint, if you see a few more international guys, because Jeff Linder had great success up at Wyoming, identifying talent from the international level, specifically Canada. He's one of the most well-respected coaches in Canada. I don't know what it is with Coach McCaslin and getting coaches that are really well-respected in Canada, but he's done it 2 years in a row with Dave Smart, arguably the best Canadian basketball coach of all time, and then another guy in Jeff Linder, who obviously his relationship goes back to his JUCO days down in Texas. All right. This from Kay. I didn't even see this before this. Here we go. How do you feel about Mark Adams being in charge of Beard's defense at Ole Miss? Not surprised. Not surprised at all. It is what it is on that front. It's one of those deals where it doesn't surprise me at all that it happened whatsoever. They're perfect for each other, no? Snakes are going to be around snakes. It's just the truth of the matter. But it is what it is in that regard. It'll be interesting to watch Ole Miss, that's for sure. From a lot of perspectives, I'm fascinated to see how it works, because there was real beef there. I don't know if they decided to go smoke a cigar on top of a building. If you know, about Mark Adams doing that at the Womble. But yeah, I don't know what they did to, get that relationship back in good enough graces for Mark Adams to be on his staff. But I'm fascinated to see if it works. I don't think there's any debating that they're both good coaches from the standpoint of Mark Adams is a good defensive coach. And Chris Beard is just a great basketball coach, but people wise, I'm not going to say anything good about him. That's for sure. And again, Kevin McCullough got drafted by the Suns right after Bronny. Wild type stuff right there. So again, 3 former Red Raiders drafted. Jalen Tyson goes number 20 to the Cavs. You got TSJ going to the T-Wolves at number 27. He should have been higher, but the whole court case, and he got acquitted from that, so that's good. And then you've got Kevin McCullough going number 56 to the Suns. It'll be interesting. He's probably going to get to play out there because they can't afford to get anybody else. The Suns are in a crazy, crazy salary cap situation since they got Beal, Booker, and Durant. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Also going to put up here on the channel, if you missed it earlier, going to repost the JT Toppin NBA mock draft and where a lot of people see him going. It's very interesting, so be on the lookout for that. But if you haven't already, one more time, be sure to like the video and hit that subscribe button. And also head on over to today's sponsor of the video, homefieldapparel.com. I'm getting that two-tone dad hat as we speak. It's on the way. That's my new favorite Texas Tech hat. I've got some of their vintage tees. They are my favorite Texas Tech shirts in my collection. You can save 15% on your entire purchase over at homefieldapparel.com with the promo code BACK212. Again, if you love what we're doing here on the channel, go help our sponsors. This is how we keep it 100% free to you guys and keeping y'all up to date on everything Texas Tech men's basketball and football all year long. All right, I am RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. One more time before we head out of here, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and well, maybe most importantly, if you want to stay in the know instantly, hit that notification bell and join the largest group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube. And oh, by the way, the most interactive with over 10,000 strong right here on the most watched, most engaged with Texas Tech YouTube channel and the Back to 12 podcast channel.